Good morning. How are you doing? Okay, today we're going to take a look at Chapter 11, Integrated Marketing Communications. This is probably what most people think about when they think about marketing. It's deals with the promotion aspect of it. So when you think of marketing, you probably think of, advertising, promotions, and that's what this chapter is about. It is really important in marketing, and actually, it is a course that we offer as an elective. So what we're going to try and do here in this chapter is cover some of what you would take an entire semester to cover. So you've heard that before, right? We have courses in marketing research and consumer behavior. So here's another one where this is a full entire course. So I'm going to try and break it down for you. And the chapter really does a nice job of hitting on a lot of the issues with IMC. So in the marketing world, you hear IMC, think integrated marketing communications. Now let's look at that term for a second. What does that mean? Well, break the words down, right? Integrated, that implies that no matter how we communicate, we want to make sure that we're sending a consistent message. And that's a problem for some firms because if your advertising says one thing, but your sales promotion strategy suggests another thing, then you're going to have a very confused customer. And when customers are confused, they're either going to just walk away because they don't know what to do, or they're not going to trust you, or they are going to think you know what you're doing. Okay, so there are a lot of different vehicles that we have in marketing, of course. TV, radio, newspaper, billboard, online. And then there are some different categories that we're going to talk about as well: advertising, sales promotion, public relations, professional selling, direct marketing. And all of that stuff would fall under this category of integrated marketing communications. Now, there is no one best tool to use. We can't say, oh, TV advertising, that's the best. It's better than anything else. No, the reason we use a lot of different tools is because each one has its advantages. And so we want to talk about why we use different ones and what benefits that they can provide to us. So when you hear the term promotion mix, then people are trying to get after, well, all right, what are the different things that you can do? So I'm not going to name them all, but I'm going to name a bunch of them. So in our promotion mix, we can have advertising. And what makes advertising different than everything else is, one, it's paid for and it's company driven. So whoever buys the advertising, they get to put out whatever message that they want. And advertising generally is thought to be impersonal. Usually advertising isn't directed at an individual, but sort of a big group of people. So it's sort of like getting some spam or a form letter. You don't feel like, oh, this was really for me. Not that you don't respond to it or it doesn't benefit you, but you don't feel that personal connection and closeness. Advertising generally doesn't make us feel like, wow, that message was meant just for me. It's not like a Hallmark card, right? We have consumer sales promotions, and you all know about those things like coupons, rebates, free samples, premiums. This is where you maybe you buy a razor and attach to it for a short period of time as a small can of shaving cream you just get for free. We have price packs where buy 4 bars of soap for the price of 3. BOGO, right? Buy one get one free. All sorts of things like that. And what a lot of those things have in common is that they provide a short-term incentive to buy the price. So they're trying to impulsively get you to grab it, right? If I can get 4 bars of soap for the price of 3, I don't think they're going to do that next week, so I better buy it right now. That's kind of what they're trying to do. Or a coupon that expires next week. Well, if you want to use it, you got to use it this week, right? Then we have a category called trade promotions, and this really has to do with the B2B market. And so there are different incentives which make different entities in the marketing channel try to act. So things like as a manufacturer, I may provide an extra 1% rebate if my wholesalers purchased $100,000 of my product, this month. Then I'll give them $1,000 back. I might share in it's called cooperative advertising. So this works a lot with retailers and manufacturers. So if you've ever seen like a grocery store ad, whether it's a Hy-Vee or Kroger or wherever you go shop, right? And you see, oh, well, Dole bananas, 39 cents a pound, or this, kind of meat, $3 a pound. Sometimes that advertisement, the cost is split between the retailer and the manufacturer. They obviously both have an interest in selling the product, but that's one of the things that the manufacturer will do to try to get the store to promote their product over something else. We have direct marketing, and just as it sounds, in direct marketing, you're going right after the person. So if you ever received anything in the mail with your name on it, like a postcard from a car dealership, Mr. Joe Jones, and my name's Joe Jones. Wow, that card was just for me. Well, they found it on a list somewhere, but it does have your name on it, and the more personal, the better. And a lot of times when we do our target marketing, we pick out individuals that we want to market to. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to sell expensive BMWs. If I can get a hold of a list of anyone making more than $150,000 a year, I'm going to send a nice package to those people. And it may be a mailer that's a $3 mailer, and it's, a big tricolor cardboard fold-out thing of our newest cars. And who knows, it may include, something for complimentary, dinner for two, those types of things. It seems like you're putting a lot of money into it. You are, but if I can sell somebody a Beamer, I'm probably going to make $10,000, $15,000 on it. So it would be worth it for me to directly market to them. We will also directly market to the common folk too. If you're a homeowner, you might get pieces of direct mail about lawn care. Well, you have a home and you get lawn care, right? Professional selling, we'll talk about that in a couple of chapters, but this is where it's sort of one-on-one. We see it a lot in B2B marketing, and you'll see it in some of the consumer marketing. Personal selling, right? If I'm a car dealer, I'm going to personally one-on-one try and sell you a car. If I'm manufacturing Planters peanuts, no, I'm probably going to not. It's not worth my while to sit down with someone to try and have them buy a bag of peanuts. I'm going to use advertising, coupons, and things like that. Public relations, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Actually, that's the next chapter. But public relations is not so much about promoting the products as it is promoting the company values, the company image, and getting people to like our company as a whole. And if they like our company, we hope that they'll buy our products. Public relations is not so much about promoting a particular product. This would include things like press releases, annual reports, news stories, publicity, things like that. And sponsorships, that falls under marketing. So when companies sponsor events, what does that have to do with their product? Hardly anything. But what a lot of companies do is they will align with a cause or a popular community event that people are excited about. And when they have their name tied to it and they're supportive of it, people have good feelings towards the company. And when they're thinking about that company's product, they might think about going to that company. So, all right. So which of these techniques and tools and strategies do companies decide to do? And that's a loaded question because you really can't answer it. What we need to do is we need to take a look at, well, what are the factors that influence whether we should advertise, whether we should do public relations? And if we do advertise, why should we go with radio? Why should we go with TV? And so a lot of this stuff is sort of common sense, but we're going to walk through a little bit just so you have a flavor for it. So first of all, budget. Well, what is your budget? And if it's limited, then you can't do certain types of things. So I don't know how many of you know the cost of a 30-second Super Bowl commercial last year was around $5 million. Okay. That's pretty expensive. And you might think, why in the heck would anyone spend $5 million to have a commercial? Well, the Super Bowl reaches over 100 million people. And when you actually boil it down, you can reach a person for about 3 cents, which is pretty cheap, right? And there's a lot of pop culture with the Super Bowl commercials. They get replayed over and over. We like to watch them. It's sort of a big coup if you can advertise on the Super Bowl nationwide or worldwide. You're thought to be a really successful company because it is so expensive. So that's not the right strategy for everyone, but for some companies, that's a brilliant strategy. They get their message out there. A lot of people see it. So if you look at online advertising, okay, that's probably about the cheapest. Well, that's great for a lot of reasons, but online might not be great for every market that you're at. So things are changing, but generally our elderly market, if you think of people over the age of 60 or 70, they're spending more time on the internet than they used to, but they're still not huge users of internet, right? Not like your age group. I just heard this morning on the radio where they said that people on average are spending 17 hours a day in front of a screen. That seemed a little high to me. I mean, if we sleep for 7 hours, that means we're on a screen all the time. That's a little excessive, but I don't know where they got their stats. But we do spend a lot of time on our screen, whether it's our phone, a TV, a computer screen, things like that. So that's great, especially for the younger generation. But think about probably your grandparents. Are they on their computer a lot? They might be, but chances are good that they're still probably watching a lot of TV. They're reading their newspaper a lot. Maybe they read magazines. And so if you geared a campaign or a program just social media wise to them, you might not even catch their eye because that's not where they're spending most of their time. So different marketing approaches cost different amounts of money, and you've definitely got to build that in. We obviously, we want the best vehicle. We want to reach the most people, but if you're given a marketing budget of $50,000, how are you going to make that work? And you don't have enough to advertise on primetime television. It's going to be one ad is going to blow your budget for the year. So that's not something that you can think about. So that's one of the factors. Another factor is what stage of the product life cycle are you in? So remember we talked about that before, where you start your introduction, growth period, maturity, and then decline. Okay, so generally in the product life cycle, when products are first being introduced, right, when they're stars or question marks and stars, people don't know about it. So we've got to invest a lot in marketing up front, to get people to know the product. Now, when you become a well-known, mature product, we don't have to advertise as much. Don't get me wrong. You got to keep advertising or people will forget. There's a famous case with this. 7-Up for the longest time had the corner on the Uncola market. And they took the view, this was back in the 80s, that we don't need to advertise anymore. Everybody knows who 7-Up is. And if you don't want Pepsi or Coke, drink 7-Up. So they really slashed their marketing. And guess who came in? Sprite. And they basically stole the market from 7-Up and have never relinquished it. So just because you are known, you got to let people continue to know. Well, think about it. I mean, you don't see much advertising about 7-Up, and you haven't for decades, which is kind of crazy. So think about all the people in the world that were born after 1980. Well, how would they know about 7-Up if they don't hear about it? So in marketing, we're always having new customers enter into our market, even if it's a local restaurant that's been around for 30 years. Great. Well, what about the families that just moved in last month? If they aren't continuing to promote and market, how are new people supposed to learn about them? And frankly, we tend to forget when we aren't reminded of who's there. You might think, oh, well, maybe they aren't in business anymore. I haven't seen an advertisement for a while. So it's something that we need to do continuously. But early in the product life cycle, we definitely need to market more than later on. Okay, so there's another factor. What type of product are you selling? So different types of products, different vehicles make more sense. So if it's a really complex technical product and it's expensive, probably going to go with personal selling. You need someone to sit down and answer your questions, explain the product to you. If you have some objections as to, I'm nervous about buying this, it's a lot of money, they can ease your fears and concerns and explain things. Other products, whether it's a small ticket item or a convenience type product, we might go more with sales promotion, short-term incentive, or maybe advertising. So the type of product is going to influence what type of vehicle that you use. And let's see, your target market. What does your target market like? And again, not to overgeneralize, but if you want to reach people between the ages of 10 and 25, you're going to have great success with online marketing because, that age group is so comfortable with, and they're always on their phones or on the computer or whatever. So that's a great way to reach them. And so use it. Again, other target markets, radio, radio, that's garbage. I never listen to radio. Your age group probably doesn't listen to the radio much, right? You got your MP3, or Apple iTunes, and you just listen to whatever you want, whenever you want. But again, the old generation, they grew up listening to radio, so that makes sense for them. And a lot of people on their commute to work, if you want to reach the professional market, they talk about drive times, 7 to 9 a.m., 4 to 6 p.m., and maybe even over lunch, 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. When a lot of people jump in their cars, and when they're driving, they will listen to the radio. Of course, you can play a CD or whatever, but sometimes people like the radio personalities or want to catch up on the news or the weather, so they listen to a radio station. So while you might think radio is passe, it's not. It's as strong as ever. It's just different types of, think about my product, and is a radio ad good for it? It might be, it might not be. Consumer readiness to purchase. So a lot of times we hear about a product and, oh, that's cool, but I'm not ready to buy it yet. I might not be ready for a year. So again, if I'm trying to create awareness, trying to put knowledge out there, I might use some vehicles. If I'm trying to close the deal, then I'm, might be looking more towards those short-term promotion incentives or personal selling. A couple of, let's see, a few other factors here. Regulation, and it's kind of a small one, but sometimes laws determine how you can advertise. So for example, anybody ever seen a tobacco advertisement on television? I don't think so. You know why? Well, because probably 50 years ago, the United States government passed a law that says you can't advertise tobacco on television. Now, you'll see it at magazines, but they cannot advertise on TV. That's why it's not there. So guess what? TV advertising is not really an option for the tobacco companies. Certain countries throughout the world, and I even think to a degree it's lightening up, but in our country, there are certain government has passed certain regulations that limits what you can do in terms of advertising. So like on Saturday mornings, which, when I was growing up, that was big cartoon time. They have restrictions on the length of the commercial, even the things that you could say in the commercial, because you got a lot of gullible kids watching TV. It seems like all the barriers have just like broken down. But, it used to be any risque TV, adults TV, not sure why they call it adult TV, but the stuff with maybe the nudity, the swearing, before 7, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., keep that off the air, and then it's kind of like, after 9, okay, then kids are in bed and adults can watch this stuff. Well, now if you watch a soap opera lately, I mean, it's pretty crazy. So, but regulation does impact that. Competition. If all your competitors are putting billboards up around town, you might want to think about doing that. Not to say that your competition should drive what you do, but you certainly got to pay attention to it, because sometimes people are like, well, why aren't everyone else is doing it? Why aren't you guys doing that? So we do study what our competition does. Let's see. Yeah, that's good enough, I guess, on that one. A couple of terms in marketing that you should know about. One is reach. So we talk about marketing reach. We want to know, how many people do we touch with our advertising? And again, TV is a great one to hit millions of people, because millions of people are watching TV. But that's also why it's very expensive. If you want to go to maybe a local or a regional magazine, your reach is probably going to be smaller. It's probably just going to be, within that area. But for certain products, that's fine. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, they want to sell worldwide, nationwide. But if you're going to look at a local restaurant, Max Tavern downtown. No, is that still open or not? I thought it was, but maybe they closed. But for a long time, that's a local establishment. Wouldn't make sense for Max Tavern to advertise anywhere but the Quad Cities, because nobody's going to drive more than 10, 15 miles to come, to that bar/restaurant. And so we don't always want great reach, but sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And then frequency. So in advertising, we talk about, marketing, we talk about frequency. We talk about how many times do you touch your customer with some type of marketing promotion. And once is usually not enough. Once might get their attention, 2, 3 times. Oh yeah, I've heard that before. Again, they hear the message 3 times, then they might remember it. So you don't want to over promote, but a lot of times more is better. I mean, bottom line is you got to weigh the cost of your marketing program versus the results, and see if the benefit is there to match the cost. But in marketing, a lot of times we do talk about that, like, well, what's the reach and what's the frequency? Okay, moving on into the chapter a little bit, talking about the communication process. So if you've had speech 129 or 101 or whatever course you've had, we talk about the communication process and how difficult it is. So, the model, you've got the sender, right? And they encode a message, send it through a channel, and then the receiver decodes it, and then they can provide feedback to the sender and hopefully clear any confusion up. And then the process of all this communication, we have noise and interference, and that's the rest of the world and all the distractions. And so, the communication process is hard, but it's really important, because if we don't reach our target customer with the message that we want, then we don't think we're going to have success with our business. So we want to pay attention along the way, make sure we're sending clear messages, using the right channels, soliciting feedback from customers, prospects, to make sure that we, that if they didn't hear the message the way we intended it, we can maybe correct it and things like that. So in marketing, this is an area of emphasis. We want to make sure that the communication process goes smoothly and that we make it as clear as possible. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about advertising. So, the number of options are insane. There's just a ton of them. Okay, so you've got TV, you've got radio, you've got newspaper, you've got magazine, you've got billboard, you've got the inside of bathroom stalls, you've got buses, you have online. You can see advertising all over the place. And so, like I was saying before, well, which ones do you choose? Well, go back to those factors. What's your budget? Who is your target audience? Are they more likely to be listening to a certain vehicle versus another? Those are the things that are going to help drive your decisions as to which ones you choose and which ones you don't. And you don't have to choose just one. As a matter of fact, it's good when companies have multiple vehicles to reach people, because then they're more likely to remember it. Oh, I heard a radio commercial about that, and I saw it on TV, and I also saw something online that touches different senses, and it makes you remember it more versus if they were only just on radio. Okay. Direct marketing, it said before, this is where we directly identify who we're going after, whether it's an individual by name or whether it's a group of people that we're specifically targeting. And the nice thing about direct marketing is that it's much easier to measure the effectiveness of our marketing program, because we didn't just spray it out to the whole world. We hit this group, and then we can say, oh, we sent out 1,000 postcards to, whatever, people with income between $100,000 and $200,000. And, we got responses from 10% of those people. Good. Okay, now you know. And then how much of that did that lead to sales? So different direct marketing strategies, we can sort of assess how effective they were, and then we can learn something for next time too. But direct marketing is expensive. We've got to take the time to identify who we're going after and seek them out, and then tailor that message, and to reach them takes time. It takes a little bit of money. Okay, another thing that we think about with integrated marketing communications is the type of message that we're sending. So what kind of appeal are we trying to promote with our marketing? So some of the more common ones would be humor. You see that all the time, right? A Doritos commercial, it's funny, right? Or a Bud Light commercial, it's funny. Some use humor, some don't. Sometimes companies will just be more informative, teach you how it works. In certain products, again, I don't have all the right answers on this, but let's say it's a product dealing with irritable bowel syndrome, right? Okay, are you going to make jokes about that? Probably not. People find it kind of embarrassing. I mean, it's easy to laugh at someone else on TV, but that one, people probably want to know, hey, does it work? So give me the information how this is going to settle my stomach. And then maybe also on a commercial like that, where maybe you show them how taking this product would help prevent embarrassment. So you can picture yourself, oh, I went to that party and I'm sitting there talking with people, and I don't have to get up and excuse myself out of the room, or I can stay the whole time, that kind of thing. So, potato chips and beer and pop, that can be funny. Other products really aren't so much funny. Fear is commonly used for a lot of insurance type products. So think about it. I mean, who likes to pay insurance premiums? Nobody. You're paying for a product that you don't want to collect on, and you want to have it, but you want to have that peace of mind. But a lot of times, insurance companies, they'll say, "Gee, if you got, look at the Allstate commercials with Mayhem, right? That guy's, you got cut rate insurance, your life's going to fall apart." So that industry quite often will use fear to say, if you don't have right coverage, you're going to be really sorry for it. But sometimes commercials, they're funny as well, right? I guess Geico, Progressive, they try to have some fun with that too. So it's not one size fits all. It's just different things to think about. Environmentally conscious, the green movement. Some companies really plug that, and that's the appeal is care about the world, care about the environment, care about your grandchildren. And so, we care about that. The oil companies have done that for a long time, which is ironic because a lot of times we think of them as they're the ones that pollute the air and the waters and all that stuff. But then they will also spend millions of dollars, replanting forests and doing other things. And they line up with those causes. So you will kind of like, hey, that company's helping make a better earth. So we have a choice as to what kind of appeal that we want to use with our customers. Okay. In marketing, oftentimes you'll hear AIDA. It stands for attention, uh, interest, desire, and action. And I'll say that again: attention, interest, desire, action. So we sort of want to lead our customers through that process, and it's sort of sequential. Ultimately, at the end, we want them to take action, buy our product. Well, how do you get there? Well, first, you got to get their attention. They even know you exist, they even know what you can do. And then once you get their attention, then you got to get them interest. Like, well, I want to know more. I'd like to learn about your product. And then D, desire, why I want your product more than the other 10 that are out there that do the same thing. And then A, action, of course, go ahead and buy from me. So in marketing and advertising, we talk about ADA quite a bit because we got to make sure we hit on all cylinders there. Different ways you can run, your messages. I'll just give you, the book talks about it. I probably can't explain it much better, but it's an open-ended message versus a closed-ended message. Open-ended, you kind of put some stuff out there and let people mull it over and think about it. Closed-ended, you tell them right what to do. And sometimes people like the open-ended more. They feel less pressure and they feel like they're making the decision. And if you give them enough information, they'll probably come to that conclusion anyway. One-sided versus a two-sided message. A one-sided message only promotes the good things about your product, which you would think you'd want to do that in marketing. But sometimes people think, well, wait a minute, nothing's perfect. So if you give me a two-sided message, you might say something like, let's say it's a really high-quality product. And in my message, I might say, this will last you beyond your lifetime. It'll never break down and give you problems. You will enjoy great social prestige by owning our, high quality brand name. And those are all the good things about it. And then I might put in another plug and say, but, if you're looking to get this at a rock bottom price, we're probably not your company because we invest in quality and integrity and peace of mind and accuracy and all this kind of stuff. And so when you acknowledge that maybe, something that, what would the consumer not like about my company, my product, and you acknowledge that, sometimes they say you win customers over because like, wow, they're being honest. They're, if you tell me only the good stuff, I'm wondering what you're holding back. If you put it out there, here's what we're really good at, and here's something we can't do for you, that people will respect you and understand. They appreciate the honesty and the integrity up front. So, again, not a right or wrong answer, but just a different way of doing things. Slogans, a lot of companies use that. Jingles are probably, I guess, slogans put to music. Characters, or spokes characters, the Green Giant. Oh gosh, I'm having trouble. Geico, the Geico Gecko. So these are all things that companies do to help people maybe remember the company, rally around something that they like. Sometimes you probably at times not been able to get jingle out of your head. Company loves that because they want you to think about it and remember it all the time. The order of your message. So again, let's go to a commercial, 30 seconds. Well, what happens in the first 10 seconds, the second 10 seconds, and the third 10 seconds? That's really important. We tend to remember more things at the beginning and at the end. So you want to make sure that you have something powerful and moving, maybe in the front, it's something to get their attention. Maybe something at the back end, it's get them to take action. And in the middle, you're going to do something else, but not all seconds are equal in terms of exposure. So we got to think about that as well. Okay, so real quickly, in marketing, we need to set a budget as to how much we're going to spend on marketing. It's not just an open checkbook. And a lot of times the company will say, hey, this is what you got. You got $1 million, you got 10 million. And it's, we can't just have unlimited funds to spend on marketing. So one of the last sections of the chapter talked about, well, how do you set the budget? And so there really there's a ton of ways, but there's 4 ways that generally companies follow. And the crazy thing is that the best one is probably the one that people use the least. But we live in a political world, and that's the way it goes. The first method is percentage of last year's sales methods. So usually you say, oh, last year's sales were 10 million. We'll spend 2% on advertising, so $200,000. There you go. And then when sales go up, you increase the advertising budget. When sales go down, you cut it, which can be dangerous because sometimes when sales are cut, that's when you need to spend more on marketing. But that's one of the methods. The second method is all you can afford. So, oh, wow, we got a lot of cash in the bank. So, yeah, spend more on marketing this year. Or things are really tight, better cut back on marketing. Okay, that's why companies do it because, they're in trouble with their checkbook. But not very good at achieving your marketing objectives. You shouldn't just spend more just because you have more. I'm not trying to promote that you should spend money you don't have, but sometimes you may need to go out and borrow money because that's what your company needs right now. The third method is competitive parity. And basically what we're trying to do is match our competition. Usually in terms of percentage of sales, since companies are different sizes. Well, if the industry averages, they're spending 13% on marketing, 13% of sales on marketing, we should probably do that too. And my beef with that is you're letting your competition dictate what you want to do with marketing. And you shouldn't do that. What if your competition has major growth plans? That's why they're spending so much on marketing and you don't want to grow. Well, why would you follow their strategy? It doesn't really make sense. The last method, which does make the most sense, is called the objective task method. And basically you go through your strategic planning process. You say, here's the goals that we want to achieve. What do we need to do in marketing to help hit those goals? Whether that's a little money, a lot of money, you're going to follow your plan. And that's the one that we try to promote and teach in marketing courses here at the university. It's hard. It takes a lot of time to plan and forecast and predict. And the other 3, as ridiculous as they really are, seem to be defensible in the business world. So, if a company doesn't achieve their goals next year, they're like, well, gee, we match what the competition spend. I don't know. It seems to people think it helps them keep their jobs, but it doesn't really do much in terms of maximizing performance, which is what we should be aiming for. Okay, getting towards the end of the chapter, they talked a lot about different types of consumer sales promotion tools, and I covered those before, so actually I'm not really going to say those again. Maybe talk a little bit about the B2B sales promotion items, between businesses. So, there are expos, there are trade shows. You can have sales contests where a manufacturer might tell their distributors, hey, listen, whichever office or whoever person sells the most, trip to Hawaii. And then you provide incentives for people to try and push those products. Trade allowances. So I might, as a manufacturer, tell a company, listen, it's $50 a unit for you to buy this. But if you guys buy $5 million a year from me, then I'll give you a rebate back. And so that, it'll only be $40. I'll give you $10 back per part that you sold. So again, you're providing some incentive for them. We can also work with other companies doing product demonstrations, training, offering free merchandise or free product. Those types of things help move things through the marketing chain as well. And then just real quickly, I think I mentioned a previous chapter, but this idea of push versus pull marketing. So when we do push marketing, we're trying to motivate our channels to get to the next channel. So the manufacturers are trying to encourage the wholesalers, to encourage the retailers, to encourage the customers to buy the product. That's fine. A pull strategy is when the manufacturer directly appeals to the customer and they get them to want that product. So then the customer goes to the retailer and says, hey, I want this. The retailer goes, we don't care. They'll go to wholesalers. Can we get some of this stuff? And the wholesalers will go to the manufacturers. We want some of this because our customers want. They're both good strategies. If the manufacturer doesn't feel like they can effectively push it through, then they might end around to the consumer and try to appeal to them and, get further demand that way. So, again, this is probably my longest lecture yet, 41 minutes. But this is a big chapter, a lot of important stuff. But hopefully that'll give you a better feel for what IMC is. Okay.